Now, this is what we feared. Protesters have got through the ring of steel. I believe that's down by Foynhaven. The Foynhaven fence at the far end of the course, trying to get ladders over. There's been so much talk about this week. There were a couple of arrests I heard about this morning. The police are quick onto the scene as they try to get in and over that white fence and onto the course. It looks from that as if a couple of people have succeeded, and that might lead to a delay to proceedings. But the security here has been very, very strong all day with these animal rights protesters trying to disrupt the Grand National. Hence, I imagine we might stay in the paddock for a little bit longer to make sure everything is safe. So this is a developing situation here at Aintree. Not a total surprise, it must be said. The horses, I guess, are being held in the paddock with these scenes going on outside the racecourse, with these protesters trying to break onto the racecourse over the barriers to disrupt the most popular horse race in the world. We will keep you posted, obviously, on what happens there. But they did create a ring of steel around this racecourse from early this morning. There was talk of being up to 300 protesters here. There were a couple of arrests this morning. And there you can see what they are trying to do to get into the racecourse to try and disrupt the Grand National. And some, as you can see, have got onto the racecourse. So we might well have a delay here at Aintree. We will keep you posted. If you're just joining us this afternoon, we should be 10 minutes or so away from the 175th Randox Grand National, but we have an indefinite delay because protesters have got on to the racecourse. There's been plenty of chat about this all week. These are live pictures out on the far side of the track. And bear in mind, this is a massive site. Such a difficult task for the police and the security services to keep everyone off. Richard Hoyles, you're up in the commentary box. What have you seen?
Well, actually, it's more what my colleagues out in the country can see. We believe there have been two attempts, one to glue themselves to the second, but that has been now removed because they just cut out the little bit of fence. An attempt to handcuff themselves to the outside wing of the canal turn. There aren't that many people that actually made it across, and the police now have moved down and are there in greater numbers. But obviously there were a few that managed to get over. Peaceful protest, perfectly allowed. This level of disruption, not acceptable. But the problem is there's lots of runoff areas for the horses. You can actually see one on the screen there, and it requires lots of gates to be opened. But hopefully everything will just settle down, point made, and hopefully nothing too serious for anyone. And at this stage, we believe there is no delay to the race, but you may be in a better position to say that than me.
I've just been told at the moment, Richard, just an indefinite hold of the horses in the paddock, and the protesters should bear these horses in mind. It's warm today, and the jockeys are being held in the weighing room at the moment, because you can't put a time on this, because the police will want the site to be safe and cleared.
Yeah, real concern down here. The crowd's getting really, really uneasy. The police are doing a fantastic job. They've just been in there, just sorting everybody out and trying to segregate people. But yeah, it's a really uncomfortable atmosphere here.
It's like Nicky Henderson said, these horses they're finely tuned athletes. They're ready, and they know when they walk around this paddock what they're about to get ready to race. So for them, it's quite difficult.
There is a ring of police down there now, but they are just worried that if they access the fence, once the race has started with a concerted effort. Fire engine went down to the third last briefly as well, but we believe that's turned back. So there's just ripples of activity more than anything else. Echo what all of you have said, to be honest. Strangely enough, the welfare of the horse is very much what everyone has in mind. It's a shame that just the oxygen that's really given by an event like the Grand National is why people focus on it. That the real cruelty tends to stand in fields and by roadsides with ill-kept horses rather than these. But this is the world that we live in at the moment, and at the moment there is a delay to the National, as you can see, and still some activity, particularly down towards the Canal Turn and Foynhaven.
So if you are just joining us this afternoon, I imagine people joining us all the time because this is a big news story as well as a sports story. In the region of 14 minutes ago, we first heard of a disruption right at the far side of the racecourse, way over to the right there. Beecher's Brook is over to the right, with Foynhaven goes round that corner to the left, and there's fencing on the far side there where it looked like some had been successful in getting over. You saw ladders being thrown, you saw people being arrested like that, and then there was was a couple of individuals that looked like they tied themselves to a fence. I couldn't see which fence that was. It looked like it was down at the canal turn area. And believe me, Aintree were ready. There's Dick and White on the telephone. Suleiko's the clerk of the course on the left. They will be in touch with the Merseyside police and the security. And this race will not be run while there is any danger to any participants. There is still activity. There are still clashes, you can see there, between the protesters and the Merseyside police. And that shot from our helicopter gives you an idea of the size of this site. How on earth do you keep that secure? The gates this morning, where we thought the peaceful process would happen, and nothing wrong with that at all, is right at the foreground here with that main entrance under the tunnel behind the grandstand. The problems have been round this enormous racecourse. And this is such a popular, well-known event around the world. They love it here. And local people have stepped in to try and help the police to stop these guys getting in. The Merseyside folk love this event. They love hosting this event, but this is another dramatic chapter. And look at the applause as the locals help out and the crowd help the police out. We'll go ahead just after 4:50 this afternoon. The protest was no longer peaceful. Protesters broke into the racecourse, clashed with police, tried to tie themselves to fences, broke over fences at the far side of the racecourse, down by the Foynehaven fence, if you know Aintree, this vast area. The police had an impossible job, but the Merseyside police security forces, with help from locals, it must be said as well, stopped them, and the protest seems to be over, and now the Grand National can go ahead. Without the usual parade, without the national anthem.
Flags up, coming in quickly, and they're off and racing. Roundup's Grand National is underway. The field towards the first of 30. Velvet Elvis towards the outside reciter prayer as they make their way towards the Melling Road, named this year after John Hanmer. So crossing the John Hanmer Melling Road, our power Longhouse poet. They leave the ground for the first time. Here's Mark Johnson.
And it will be just Cocoa Beach on the outside who led down his Cloudy Glen. Reciter prayer has also gone. So too DL Care has gone at fence number 1, and also down at the first is Hill 16. They're going over fence number 2, and the leader there was Cocoa Beach, and we have got a faller there back in the field. Down at that fence is Fury Road has gone, and there's another one gone as well. The big breakaway has also gone at fence number 2. They go over the third. Cocoa Beach is still prominent, leads the way as they go now towards the fourth.
But he looks to be the only one to have gone at the canal turn. Loose horses run right across them as they go to Valentine's, and we go back to Mark.
And we have down there on the outside Lifetime Ambition, who has balked and has come down, is Born by the Sea, who's hunting up the leading group together with Back on the Lash. The next fence they'll take will be an open ditch, and it's Mr. Coffee who had the lead over Cocoa Beach, who took it in second. Hour Power in third. Corrick Rambler is going through on the inside now, and he's prominent together with Juan Maj.
Medela Trump, the big dog, behind these Back on the Lash as they now head towards the chair. Streets Mr. Coffee, Medela Trump, the big dog, behind these Juan Maj, our Power in sixth. Back on the Lash is seventh. Mr. Is as well as they go out on their second circuit. Looks like we're going to have a bypass of fence number 1 on this first circuit. So moving round the outside of the obstacle, and still out in front is Cocoa Beach and Mr. Coffee as we rejoin Mark.
Confirming that Galvin was another one who went on the first circuit, and also Darasso came down at fence number 2.
It's 6 legs to Vanillier and Gaillard to Vanille. Lucinda Russell down